Hello and welcome to another Hun's History Nest podcast, where history is enjoyed and salvaged forever. This podcast is the first of two parts for John Adams' Presidency, and it's from the set of notes titled Jeffersonian Democracy. Now, this is going to take a look at the presidential election in which John Adams becomes our second president. It occurs in 1796. Ultimately, this is the first time where we actually had competition, having George Washington be president of the United States first. There wasn't much competition against him. What I do want us to note here, as seen in the bubble, is in the United States of America at this time, there were 138 electoral votes. However, each person got to cast two votes, one for president and then one for vice president. So this 138 is actually doubled. And half of, or more than half of, 138 is 70. So we need someone to obtain 70 electoral votes for president to become the next president of the United States. And it was a very close election. In this presidential election, we'll notice that Thomas Jefferson obtained 68 electoral votes, and the new president would be John Adams at 71. Very, very close. Now, John Adams is a Federalist, as seen down here. He's from Massachusetts. And Thomas Jefferson is a Democratic Republican, and he is from Virginia, which puts our country in sort of a strange circumstance. You became vice president because you were elected to that position. So in this case, you came in second place, which means that we have we have a president from one party and a vice president from the opposite, which can make for difficult situation because we have varying political party views. However, these two guys, Jefferson and Adams, they are friends, and they have been friends for quite some time, dating all the way back to the Continental Congress, etc. Well, their friendship is going to be drastically strained because of their varying views and visions for the future of our country. The first obstacle that John Adams is going to encounter when he's president of the United States is something that he inherits, and that's the Jay Treaty. Now, this was established when George Washington was president, and it was a treaty that was created that will allow for a pleasurable environment between the United States and Great Britain, but it also leaves out the idea of France. And remember, we were supposed to be, according to George Washington's foreign policy, we were supposed to be a neutral, as it says down here at the bottom, a neutral nation. And we have to wonder, if you're France, are these the actions of a neutral nation? Now, here were the issues up here that we had with Great Britain, and here were the results of this treaty. And one will note, perhaps, a couple of these items, that we would agree to British anti-French maritime policies, but we also will be in a place where we're going to have trade with Great Britain. And if we're trading with Great Britain, does that mean that we're a neutral nation? Well, France undoubtedly will view us as anything but neutral, but actually an ally of Great Britain's. And if we're an ally with Great Britain, that makes us an enemy of France. And so we will see a war, or sort of a war, break out between the United States and France. The French government will ultimately view us as being their enemies. And as a result of France looking at us, the United States, as an enemy, they are ultimately going to stop American ships that perhaps could be helping Great Britain with the war, and it's going to create some issues between us and France. So we will undoubtedly send a commission over to France in March of 1797, consisting of three guys, Charles Cotesworth Pinckney, as seen here at the top, and we will send John Marshall here and Elbridge Gerry here, 3 people over to France to try and work out some kind of an agreement between us and them to stop France from taking over American vessels, so forth. What will happen in essence is we will not be treated with much respect. The Prime Minister of France, seen here, Charles Maurice de Talleyrand, is going to actually give 3 men the task of meeting with our men. And those guys are going to be these 3 men here. Now, we will refer to them as Monsieur X, Y, and Z, and they will meet with our 3 men. And ultimately what's going to happen is they're going to demand concessions to even meet with us. A concession, everyone, is basically a bribe. And our 3 men here will be furious at this and ultimately will leave the negotiations and return home. And it will make for a very, very bitter and angered federalist-dominated government by the United States of America. And ultimately, this is going to lead to the creation of what will be nicknamed the Alien and Sedition Acts. And this is going to be where we will begin with part 2 of our John Adams Presidency podcast.